Hi, my name is Kiara Furrer, and I'm a Sports Medicine 3 student at South Tahoe High School. For my project number 6, I did medical journal research on congenital malalignment. Congenital malalignment is an improper alignment a person is born with rather than being developed over time. Many of these conditions can escalate over time and lead to other conditions or also be concurrent with a different condition as well. The example of congenital malalignment that I'll be talking about today is congenital scoliosis. What is it? Congenital scoliosis is an abnormal curvature of the spine. The curvature develops in the mother's womb before birth, and the spinal column bends left or right in an S or C shape. Scoliosis is defined by the presence of a curvature in the spine of more than 10 degrees. Some causes of congenital scoliosis include abnormal development, bony spinal segments, or vertebrae fail to form properly. Some examples of this is they create extra segments or they fuse vertebrae during the fetal development. Here's a photo comparing the healthy spine without congenital scoliosis and congenital scoliosis with this is the one with the extra segment, which is called a hemivertebrae, and this is one with the fused vertebrae. As you can see, they are both curved in a different shape. Effects of congenital scoliosis. The defects can be minor or more major. If it's one, it can be one segment of the vertebral column, which is something more minor, and it can also escalate up to nearly every level, which can lead to severe deformity. Congenital scoliosis can also be concurrent with kyphosis, which is a forward bending curvature, or lordosis, which is a backward bending curvature. Here's a photo comparing a healthy spine with kyphosis, which is the forward bending, lordosis, which is the backward bending, and scoliosis. Here's another photo showing the spine and the differences between kyphosis, lordosis, and scoliosis. Here are some basic facts about congenital scoliosis. Abnormal curves in congenital scoliosis tend to be more rigid than those in idiopathic scoliosis, which is the one which develops over time, which is making them more resistant to correction. Curve progression, particularly with mild curves, is somewhat unpredictable, underscoring the importance of frequent follow-ups with an orthopedic surgeon. Around 10 to 25% of curves are mild, and they remain stable and never progress at all, but most curves become worse and require treatment. Some more basic facts include sometimes the ribs of children with progressive early scoliosis fuse together, reducing volume of the rib cage, which is known as thoracic insufficiency syndrome, and it limits the chest volume and it interferes with lung growth and causes problems with breathing. Infants born with scoliosis have a relatively high rate of other congenital abnormalities, which include congenital heart defects, which is found in around 10% of congenital scoliosis patients. Children with congenital scoliosis usually do not experience any pain with the condition, and it occurs in 1 in 10,000 newborns and is much less common than the type of scoliosis that begins in adolescence and develops over time. The treatment for congenital scoliosis typically depends on the type and location of the spinal deformity and the likelihood of the curvature worsening in the future. Mild curves that are about 10 to 25 degrees usually just take observation, which includes regular visits to an orthopedic surgeon, physical exams and x-rays, and as well as growth spurts can trigger progression, which would lead to having to get bracing or surgery. Infants with moderate or severe curves have a greater chance of progression and often require casting and or a bracing treatment. Some of the surgery options include removing the extra vertebrae or some type of spinal fusion in which two or more of the vertebrae are fused together with bone bridges made of grafts. Instrumentation in which metal rods are attached to the spine to maintain curve correction is another option. They also have a thing called a growing rod, which periodically is lengthened by a simple procedure to minimize any stunting of growth with the rod. Some bracing options include, but are limited to because they're less commonly used in congenital scoliosis than other types of scoliosis because the curves tend to be more rigid in newborns and do not respond to gentle forces of a brace. However, the braces are fit to patients using pads for comfort. Orthopedic surgeons monitor the progression of the curve during the bracing. Sometimes the curve is completely controlled by the brace, and after many years of bracing, no further treatment is needed for the congenital scoliosis. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.